I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to get Andrew to like musical theater. Andrew, we have a recurring guest, and I'm so glad he's here.
Ah, good. They're not special anymore.
No, they're not special. They're just recurring now. They've stopped being special.
Oh, that's excellent.
I'm putting that on my tombstone.
Not special.
Not special.
Recurring.
Specifying.
Of course, you all know him. It's Ethan from Sideways on YouTube. Ethan, we're so happy to have you here again.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Every episode we've had you on has been great. So
honestly,
yeah,
every time we've had you on, it's been a knockout episode. I'm expecting another one today.
It depends on how...
Don't disappoint.
It depends on how long it takes before we get to the Muppets, really.
You already said it. I mean, we're getting close here.
It totally jinxed us.
Oh yeah, this is a holiday episode. This is like one of our rare, very timely. We're hitting it right around the time of the holiday. This is hitting like I think the week after or week before Passover.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. So we're actually being fairly timely about this. So happy Passover!
Yeah.
I absolutely did not do my research.
So Ethan, I'm forcing you to say it. What are we covering this week?
The Prince of Egypt.
Cue the music, Bree.
My son, I have nothing I can give but this chance that you may live. I pray we'll meet again if he will deliver
Prince of Egypt is a musical with music by Stephen Schwartz and lyrics by Stephen Schwartz with a book by Philip Labizenk. Is that how you say it? I know he's the guy that wrote the screenplay to the film as well, but it's based on the 1998 film of the same name. It premiered at the Dominion Theatre in London's West End for a limited 39-week engagement from February 5th to October 31st of 2020. It opened on February 25th, but it never made it to that October end date. But it was directed by Scott Schwartz, Stephen Schwartz's son, and choreographed by Sean Cheeseman, which I just kept in because his name's Cheeseman. It was forced to take a lengthy hiatus starting on March 17th. After just 6 weeks of being on. This was due to the COVID-19 pandemic in the United Kingdom mandating the closure of all theaters. The show is set to reopen on July 1st, 2021, and its run will be extended till January 8th of 2022. So much for 39 weeks, right? The plot is it's an adaptation of the biblical story of Moses, who grows from a Hebrew baby sent adrift on the Nile by his mother to escape genocide, to an adopted Egyptian prince, and finally into God's deliverer of Hebrews from the oppression of his brother Ramesses. All right, Ethan. The reason why I asked you to be on this episode, and this is like one of the ones where I offered the olive branch instead of you coming to me, because there was this tweet about like, what's better, Bells of Notre Dame or Deliver Us? And you're like, Bells of Notre Dame. I've got opinions on Prince of Egypt. And I'm like, well, color me interested.
There are a lot of people who have some very strong opinions about this film, and or I guess the musical and the film, because they are very similar.
Ish.
There's big differences, I'd say.
There are pretty big differences, but like in both being the same property and one being an adaptation of another, right? This is gonna sound really strange. This feels like somewhere in like this film, The Prince of Egypt, feels like a weird mutant combination of Shrek with a little bit of Singing in the Rain. Because so much of The Prince of Egypt, like Shrek, feels like a response to Disney on Katzenberg's part, right? But it also feels kind of like Singing in the Rain, because you know that one scene with Good Morning where like Debbie Reynolds, like she danced so much her feet were bleeding, and like every time you see that scene you can't really like enjoy it anymore? Yes. There's some stuff that like I've heard, there's some stuff I've looked up from how The Prince of Egypt like is put together where I look at it, I'm like, is this actually what's happening? Are they trying to do this? Are they trying to do that? And so it's really interesting to look at The Prince of Egypt, the film, as a standalone film, then as like a DreamWorks film, and then as a DreamWorks film trying to out Disney.
And successfully out Disney. Like, if I remember correctly, this came out the same year as Mulan, correct?
98. And this is the highest grossing non-Disney animated film of all time. Is that
it was
true?
Well, I don't think it's true anymore, but at the time it was. Second only, can you guys tell me what the first one was? I know this.
Oh shit, I don't.
It's hilarious. It's the Rugrats movie was the other one.
Are you kidding?
Are you kidding? Are you actually serious?
Really?
Yeah, the Rugrats movie was the first non-Disney animated movie to beat over 100 million at the box office. Prince of Egypt was the second.
Wow.
I'm glad I
The
had that
Rugrats
fact.
movie?
That's
Yeah,
kind
the
of
first
amazing.
one, not Rugrats in Paris.
Not Rugrats in Paris, the classic masterpiece, but the
Yes.
Rugrats movie.
No, yeah.
I think this will hit the same week that hits, so that's extra time. So it's but I see everything you're saying, Ethan. I agree with all of the things you're saying, but they did it. They Katzenberg did it is kind of it.
Yeah.
Like, this is like their one big artistic success. Artistic is the big
It's
word.
a pretty good movie. I don't know if I can agree that it's not great. I don't know.
I don't even think that's what Ethan's arguing either.
No, it like, I kind of want to say that it tripped in the right direction. If that's not being too mean. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's like, I mean, visually at the very least, it is stunning. Like, it is an amazing
Yes.
film to watch, and I think that that's something that really struggled to translate to the stage.
They tried.
They
I
tried.
wouldn't even say they tried.
They got big projectors and they were like, all right, that was all the effort we have.
I mean, it really
Yeah.
was. It really was.
It looks terrible.
Yeah.
This looks awful. But I want to know, like, what, like, aside from like the behind the scenes stuff, what is your opinion, and why do you say they tripped in the right direction?
Well,
I really
So, like, with
gonna
the
poke this bear.
so when you're looking at this, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is this is something that you hear over and over again, and it's in so many different permutations that it's difficult to keep the details together. But Katzenberg was Eisner's number 2 at Paramount before the Disney Renaissance ever happened, and then when Eisner moved to Disney, he kept Katzenberg as like a second in command, and when Eisner was the CEO of
third
Disney,
in command.
third, sorry,
Frank Wells is in between.
Right. And Eisner ends up putting Katzenberg in charge of like the Disney films, Disney animated, Disney TV. And then Katzenberg ends up putting together like, I think it was Oliver and Company. Like, did he work on Oliver and Company? Was it?
I think that was like his first one he had control over, because he did do the work on the Black Cauldron and like famously recut that. And
Right. And then he ended up doing, I think he was involved in Roger Rabbit, but like where I know his name is from The Little
Roger
Mermaid.
Rabbit's a different category. Roger Rabbit was Richard Williams' animation company.
No, that's right. Yeah.
In London.
Sorry,
so,
I'm
and
going through. I'm
Robert
going
Zemeckis.
through like, yeah.
Sorry about that. I
you're fine.
don't mean to mansplain. I'm sorry.
So when Katzenberg
Disney
when
split.
Katzenberg goes to like does The Little Mermaid with Ashman and Menken, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, it's a smash success, but Katzenberg is like kind of in the way. And so the infamous story is that during one focus group, some kid like spilt popcorn or something, and Katzenberg was convinced that they had to cut the song that was on the screen because it was boring. That song being Part of Your World, Ariel's I Want song. So The Little Mermaid almost didn't have its I Want song, the backbone of what makes, The Little Mermaid work. But then for Beauty and the Beast, everything that I've ever heard, and I think this is on the Ashman documentary on Disney Plus too, Katzenberg just bends over backwards and gives Ashman a blank check and says you can do whatever you want, to the point where they move the production of Beauty and the Beast to New York so that Ashman doesn't have to travel anymore. And
well, there's also the original director's terrible version,
Right.
that kind of been like, we need someone who knows what they're doing, and they seem to know what they're doing.
right. And so this is where things get, and I'm allowed to cuss here, right? Just remind me.
Always.
Okay, so this is where things get kind of fucky, if I remember. So
Yeah.
like with Little Mermaid, Katzenberg butts heads with Ashman. Ashman eventually like wins out for Ariel's I Want song. In Beauty and the Beast, it's a blank check. Ashman had put together like the backbone of what was going to be Aladdin, and it was a completely different movie to what they produced. And what ended up happening was like Ashman died due to complications of AIDS, and it was like a tragedy, it was awful, and they dedicated Beauty and the Beast to him. But then Katzenberg turns around and like, instead of he decided to like rewrite Aladdin to be more like Tom Cruise instead of like a Rick Moranis-y character that they described Aladdin originally being. There's supposed to be like Aladdin's parents in the film. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So there are things in Aladdin that are really weird, like how Aladdin wears a disguise that doesn't cover his face and Jasmine doesn't recognize him for some reason. And so when you look at the Disney movies, they're all really formulaic. There's the I Want song, there's like a sidekick song, a villain song, a love song. And you can go through the whole Disney Renaissance and they're basically repeating the pattern over and over again. It's a super hyper distilled musical. And when you get to the Prince of Egypt, you can tell that it's someone trying to do that, but it hits different beats. So like some of the musical numbers, while they're really well written and they're great songs, they hit kind of different. So like, just for like an example, there is a wedding in this movie and there is no love song, right? The villain song, right? You're playing with the big boys now is not for Ramses. Ramses has no music in the movie, right? There are a lot of points where it's kind of Disney-esque, but it just shifts it ever so slightly. Like All I Ever Wanted is technically an I Want song that doesn't really explicitly say what he wants, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's like I should be happy as opposed to I want to be happy.
Right, but you can tell that it's somebody saying, no, it needs to be a song about wants. And so they're like, okay, well, we can sing about all he's ever wanted. And so when you look at Prince of Egypt, you can very much see it's somebody who spent a lot of time looking at a Disney formula, trying to replicate a Disney formula, but more. You know what I mean?
So you don't think Katzenberg had any idea what he was doing?
I mean, you want to cut an I Want song from like Little Mermaid. Yeah, it's difficult to say that. I mean, I'm not going to say that he didn't. And this is kind of like the big problem is like every time you read about Katzenberg, everybody says that he thinks he was like the sole reason that any of the Disney Renaissance happened. Like all of the movies were his vision and his vision alone. That's a lot of what I've heard. And so like, I can't imagine that you don't spend that much time around a studio and not pick up a couple things, which I definitely think he picks up on, but I'm not sure it happens for all the right reasons, if that makes sense. So this definitely feels like it's like an interpretation of a Disney movie almost.
I agree, but I'm not sure that all falls on Katzenberg's back here. I was going to bring up the composer, Stephen Schwartz, who Katzenberg, in his Katzenberg way, outright stole from Disney while he was writing music for Mulan and just said, no, you're not doing it anymore. Come work with me.
Well, it was the same.
It
was the same thing for Hans Zimmer, because Hans Zimmer did all the score, and Zimmer had just done The Lion King a couple years ago.
Yes.
So it was like another poach.
So he took both of them because I think he was putting Elton John and Tim Rice onto El Dorado at the same time. So he took all his boys back.
Yeah.
He took back all his toys. And Stephen Schwartz is a Broadway guy, but he was kind of a counterculture Broadway guy. Like he did things like Pippin and Godspell and Children of Eden. He wasn't like the Ashman structure means everything type. He was like a real free-formy kind of hippie. I think that's the best way to do it, where he was good at working well, I wouldn't even say that. He was good with working with big minds like Bob Fosse and all that, but he would bend to whatever they wanted. So I don't think it's quite as much like, because I think from what I've read of Katzenberg, from like The Men Who Would Be King and a couple other books, the Disney War, he will respond to people that fight back, and Schwartz is kind of a guy that doesn't like to fight back for what he's doing.
Well, that's
not that he isn't wonderful, but that's just kind of part of who he is. He's like, I'll do what you need me to do. I'll make it good, but I'm going to do what you ask.
See, the thing about Schwartz that makes this so much more interesting, though, is that he did work on Pocahontas and Hunchback. So it's like he was...
Well, you got Alan Menken there, though.
Yeah, no, I know you got Alan Menken, but like Schwartz would have also been a part of the process, just like seeing it all. So there's I don't know if I would say if it's a response to the Disney works or a continuation, maybe even a development, you can argue. But in how it differs is, to me, what makes it so interesting, and especially in terms of how they made it work, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when I think of this show and I think of the soundtrack or the movie specifically, we'll get to the musical eventually. When I think of this musical specifically, I think of it as in the same terms as I think of Children of Eden and Godspell as like the third in Schwartz's composer, lyricist, religion trilogy.
Where Christian rock albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, his three main Christian rock albums. Where they are just freeform things happening, and like the story doesn't reflect in song very well in any of them. Like I'd say that Children of Eden has probably the closest thing to a story, and
I don't know. Maybe it's not that they didn't want to do like an I Want song and things like that, because I feel like it does have an I Want song, and that song is Deliver Us.
That's a
and
fair argument.
It's for the Hebrew people,
that's fair.
and he wrote it in that way
Yeah.
rather than giving Moses himself an I Want song. Because really the whole point of the Bible story or the Torah story or whatever is the Hebrews get out. They gotta go away.
No, that's fair. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
There's so much to talk about with this.
But what I think is really interesting, though, in what you're saying, though, is that when they transfer it to the stage, they added an I Want song, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's like an I Love song, or an I Love song. Wow, a love song. Like Ramses gets a number. Like, yeah.
There's that.
They changed the whole Ramses-Moses relationship, unless
The
I hadn't
dynamic
seen the
is
movie in
all
so
whack.
long.
Oh, it's so different.
relationships.
It's so different.
Can we talk about the stage show now? I feel
Yeah.
like most people know the movie,
Sure.
and the stage show is different.
Let's do it.
And I don't want to take away from Ethan doing a video on Prince of Egypt that I would love to see one day, to be honest.
We're letting him gather his thoughts.
you and
okay?
everyone,
This is your
everybody
sounding
wants-
board.
Everybody wants me to do it. There's one thing about Prince of Egypt. I don't know how tangential this is, but there's something that they did that was really strange that I've never seen before. They released 3 soundtracks. Did you read about that?
No.
No, but that sounds like a Katzenberg thing to do.
So what they did is they
More
released
Geffen thing to do.
Yeah, they released 3 soundtracks. I'm on the wiki, like trying to figure out what it is. Yeah. They released 3 versions of it. One of them has like the numbers from the movie and like the backtracks. Then they had a country-themed Nashville version with some other tunes, and then a gospel-based inspirational soundtrack, all of them being like inspired by the movie or something like that. And they sent these 3 albums in 3 different directions to like cast their net as far as possible to get everybody on board for this movie.
Like, one of those makes sense. I don't understand why you do like a country western version of this, though.
I mean,
I can see it.
I've never seen a film do something like that before.
Well,
this
it's
is
just bizarre. It doesn't.
Let's frame it as this. You have a brand new film production studio, which hasn't been done in many years in Hollywood, and one of the main guys behind it is known for producing music.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that makes sense. That adds up. Like, we got our big animated film with a bunch of songs. What's her name? Whitney Houston sang the final, and Mariah Carey sang it. We're making as many albums of this as we can.
No, yeah, it does make sense. Like, especially if you have the resources to throw at it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Unlimited money with Spielberg, Geffen, and Katzenberg behind
Right.
it. That's a full Quibi there.
That's just unlimited money.
All right. So the stage show. Ethan, I sent you a bootleg of it during its very short run, all things considered. It's kind of a miracle we were able to see this. What did you think in comparison to the movie? Just general thoughts.
I definitely took, because we talked a little bit about it and what we were seeing, and the 2 things that, I think the 2 things that stood out for me, honestly, the one thing that was the most, I don't know if shocking is the right word, but like the stark contrast was, I mean, just visually, like the film just looks amazing. You know, there's no way to cut it. It is a visually spectacular film.
Wait, you don't like the projectors?
Yeah, no, and on stage it's just like, it's projectors on a wall. There's like 3 set pieces.
There's one on the ceiling. There's one on all the walls.
It feels like a lot of pantomime, you know, like the props don't look super expensive.
Oh, but the slow motion fall was pretty sick.
The slow motion fall existed. It was definitely there. Yeah, so that was one of the things. Like, okay,
Definitely there.
like one of the things that I thought that would have been really interesting to do in like a stage version is like in the film, like they sort of make this association that Moses and his ability to perform miracles is real. Like the stick actually turns into a snake. But then the 2 high priests are using like basically stage magic and illusions, like card tricks to basically trick people. I thought that would have translated beautifully to stage, but the characters are completely cut if I'm not having a stroke.
Like one
He's
of
like
them
an
is there to
amalgam
be
buddy.
the bad guy at the end.
Yeah, but like they also like they cut the number.
Oh yeah,
It's a little bit in the plagues. It's a tiny bit in the plagues.
Yeah, but like the whole, like you're playing with just like listing off all the gods, like they cut that, and that's a number that I like. So like that was some of the starkest, some of the biggest.
There really
thing.
wasn't that many numbers, and they cut like 2 of them.
Seriously, and then the other thing that really stuck out to me was just, I mean, obviously I've seen the film, a half dozen times at sleepovers, and like I know every single word to every single one of the songs. And when I was listening to music that was not one of the songs, it just stuck out like a sore thumb. Like for whatever reason, it did not feel like they smoothed out the transition between like film songs and original songs for the stage. And I don't know, it felt like it really pulled a lot of the energy out.
I think you go from Deliver Us to Faster and you're like, ooh,
Ooh.
ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
No, for
that one hurt.
For me also, like,
it's like whiplash.
it was like Through Heaven's Eyes. Yeah, but like, yeah, absolutely. Like there's a stark contrast. That, and like it feels like Moses gets like every single number. Like by the end of the show, it was like this dude is like putting the whole show on his back.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not that many other important characters, to be fair.
Yeah, but like
Ramesses was a fairly important one, and maybe Zipporah, you could have given her more to do.
Yeah, but how many villain songs are you gonna have? I mean,
but we have to add more villains, like Ramesses' sitcom angry wife.
yeah. And what is the ending? Like, what did they do to it?
What did they do to my boy?
You massacred my boy. They're like, you know what? No, they need to like make up and kiss at the end. Like, come on.
In the like, even the Rugrats version, not to mention Rugrats 1,000 times in this episode, but they like murdered Pharaoh at the end with the Red Sea.
Ramses' story is supposed to be like a tragedy, not like a.
It's about hubris. A man like getting too full of himself. He owns slaves. We don't forgive people who own slaves. I'm sorry.
The bad guy, like, period. It's just, yeah.
I don't know. I get you're supposed to feel like a little bad for him that his son dies, but you don't give him that like make up with Moses moment at the end. That's just weird.
I think the movie hit the right middle ground between like, the not killing him, but also not giving him like a perfect ending with Moses. Like that was a good like.
Well, I think the ending for him has to be that he can't forgive Moses. Basically, he's too angry or whatever, and then. That's what they do in the movie, I thought. Because isn't the last time that we see him, it's like Moses is looking back at him and he's like mad? I don't remember.
Because he gets swept up in the Red Sea. Most of his people die, and he like gets trapped in a cave.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which
that's
is
right.
like,
that's right.
As close to death as you could probably get in that for like a lead character.
But they didn't give him a closure with Moses at all, which they shouldn't.
Because why would you?
No, yeah, absolutely.
But they do here, though, because they just have different bad guy go out and die.
Well, I mean...
Now, why do you think that is? Like, what is your justification for this?
Because those are the only two characters, and if they don't have a happy ending, then, like, what do you do?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, when you look at the film, you can definitely see an array of secondary characters, but on the stage, it is very much just the Moses and Ramses show.
Mm-hmm.
Which you could have done more. I mean, not to get all biblical, but like Aaron is supposed to be kind of a thing. Moses has a problem talking, and Aaron does a lot of the talking in the Bible story. You could have done something with that. I don't know.
Yeah, he slows.
There's a lot of source material to pull from,
There's a good amount that you can definitely go to. There's like 10 different interpretations of this story just in Christian canon. And I mean, I don't know. But
maybe this is me pushing like my own like agenda here or like my own thought. I think the fact that Steven Schwartz's own son directed this show might have kind of cost it having like a really grounded new eye that could like really look at this, or it got too much of an eye where they just reconsidering everything that was in the movie or all of that. But then again, it stays very close in other ways. I think we needed like a real big like swing here. Like, I know that Julie Taymor has become a meme because of Spider-Man, but she'd be really good at this. Imagine how cool the Red Sea would have looked.
I mean, the curtains were pretty sweet.
I just can't move past like how they staged it in the set and everything. It really like I don't know what happened there. Maybe that's where they cut costs, but that to me really was like probably the most disappointing part of watching it.
There was like a lot of parts where it just looked like they were playing the movie on the projectors behind them.
It really kind of did, yeah.
Like a Disney show where you'll have the live action Ariel, and then They'll tell
The
a little
movie
bit of
looks
story.
pretty good, guys. Yeah. The movie looks pretty good, guys. But I mean, I come up with something new, I guess. I don't know.
But this does fit a more traditional musical theater structure, and what does that give us?
Well, you got like footprints in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It doesn't seem to improve it. If anything, it just drags everything out more.
It feels so long, and it is like relatively shorter than a usual musical.
It did feel very, very long.
You always, with these movie adaptations, you always have to get into the where they decide to split the 2 acts, because they never do a 3-act musical with this kind of stuff. And it's always in the worst spot, because they just put act 1, like, what do they do it here? It's when he talks to the burning bush. Is that right?
Yeah, which looks like garbage. Can we talk about that?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't look...
Yep, I'm just, mm-hmm.
We meme on UK theater a lot on this show because it is a very different world. Like, things like DJ Save My Life is like a critical rave, and it looks more expensive than this.
Well, sometimes it can be very fun. I mean, some of the UK stuff is like enjoyable to sit through, but this was kind of just bland.
Well, it makes me wonder what a Broadway production would do. I will say that I do appreciate that every one of the leads are a person of color. That is a really good thing, and relatively new in its run, because in its very first production, like, 2 white guys played Moses and Ramses.
I mean, yeah, that's always good. It would be nice if you made a good show with it, too, though.
Yes, I'm just trying to give credit where it's due.
Oh, of course. We always give credit where it's due.
I mean, it's...
Sometimes.
I'm trying... I'm trying to look at this show detached from the film and see like whether or not that's like a more or less valuable way to look at it. Because when I look at this, it very much, like we were just talking about, like Disney cruise line shows and like Disney park shows, like just because I'm familiar with the film so much, this very much feels like it's just trying to sell you the film again, but elongating the show. Like you were saying, like I can't point to like subplots or extra characters or some other number that sort of creates a different line, a different perspective. They do change Ramses and Moses a lot.
In a bad way,
but
though.
yeah, it's like it's a
arguably.
No, yeah, it very much. I feel it weakens sort of like the themes of the whole show, you know, and so it's like I don't know, I don't really know like how else to put it. It very much, I don't know if diluted is the right word. Would you say?
I think that's a good word to use. I mean, this bothers me most of all because when this was first announced, this is DreamWorks' second ever and probably last, considering the dissolution of DreamWorks altogether or the purchase of it from Universal, stage musical right next to Shrek the Musical, which I thought was fine for a Shrek adaptation. Like, what else were you going to do?
It's about what you expected from a Shrek adaptation.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
But the thing is, this wasn't Stephen Schwartz's first time adapting one of his own pieces of work to the stage. And he did it very well with Alan Menken for the Hunchback of Notre Dame stage musical, which is significantly better, in my opinion, in all regards to the film itself, where they made all the right changes, they kept all the right things, cut all the right things, and expanded on the things we were all most interested in, and kind of brings Frollo to the front and center in a really, really fascinating way. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, this is like the perfect guy to do it, and this is the perfect thing to do it with. Like, in theory, Prince of Egypt should work well on stage because it is just all humans chatting with each other and like a little bit of mystical elements. It's not like you have to recreate like a mermaid
or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm just sitting here like, what could we have done? I think is the next question. What could we collectively have done if we were given the task of adapting the film of Prince of Egypt to the stage?
I don't know.
It's
exactly.
No, yeah, that is like a really difficult question because so much of it feels, I guess, like a lot of it really is introspective to Moses, which to me feels like it would lend itself extremely well to more numbers exploring more about how he feels, right?
Right.
Which
they kind of do.
Yeah, they kind of do, but it doesn't ever stick the landing. Is that the right way to... I feel as frustrated trying to describe this musical as I felt watching it because it's got such a wonderful source material. It's like the pieces are there and it just didn't come together. Like first and foremost, you cut the projector and invest in more sets. I don't know if that's a West End thing, but that, like, for starters, has to happen. Then you'd have to, I mean, the numbers for me really stand out. So you'd have to, I mean, honestly, you would have to play more to the secondary characters. You have to play to
embrace the ensemble.
Yeah, embrace the ensemble. More than not at all. Bring in the Pharaoh.
I don't even
more.
remember the names of some of these other characters. As the other, like, they don't do anything.
Right. like one of the things that bothers me in the film is, like, Jethro gets a whole number, right? Like Jethro gets a whole number. He sort of is there for 10 minutes and then just evaporates, right? I feel like there's a lot of resources there to expand upon and make, like, a whole show, like really build upon him, have him be, like, more of a character. Like, help me make sure
or even give that song to Zipporah, since that's supposed to be the love interest.
Sure. I mean, like, it would make a lot more sense. I mean, and this is, again, a criticism I have about the film. It'd make a lot more sense for Zipporah, right? That's how you say her name. Mm-hmm. It'd make more sense for her to be the one to show Moses the ropes, like, through Heaven's eyes. It would also strengthen, like, a love song that could be related and stronger and more present in the film. You can have more callbacks to it and have it be developed more, because in the movie, she's like, okay, I'll go with you to Egypt. But then, like, you basically don't ever see her again, right?
She's in the background.
Yeah.
She pulls Moses out of the mud and, like, makes faces a lot.
Right.
She has a harmony with his sister during When You Believe.
Sure, but, like, yeah, but I guess, I don't know. I don't know if agency is the right word.
No, I'm not defending. Your point is made.
Yeah.
I'm just...
So, like, having, like, a love song between the two of them that they can call back in the second act and have it be recontextualized because she's sacrificing stuff for him, like that. Like, you can lean harder into that, right? Like, there's a lot to harvest, and it doesn't feel like they harvested anything from, like, the backbone of the film. You know?
Ethan, when you saw that character fight her way out of, like, her chains in the film, the logical adaptation is to make her a stripper.
Yes, no,
and,
absolutely,
like,
of course,
no, without question. That whole scene.
He thought he was writing for Esmeralda or something.
Really, like it. Yeah, yeah, no, for real.
It's rough, but I think it's time that we compare our opinions to those of the theater critics that took a look at this, and it's time for Andrew Views. Since Bree's not here.
Bree's not here. I'm doing it today.
We'll break it up probably, since there's a lot to read here. So, this is where I pulled a bunch of reviews. A lot of them were pretty negative. Most people didn't like the show.
Weird.
And it's strange it's coming back because the UK really loves their, like, jukebox musicals and all that. Like, that's the kind of things they like on the West End. They like their big, intense, like, musicals that are more fun than anything else. Mm-hmm. So it's weird that this is still coming back. I don't know why I'm still so amazed by that, but...
And it hasn't made it to the States yet, has it?
No.
Because it feels like this would do pretty okay here, you know?
I don't think in its current form it would, to be honest.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like they could maybe work it into something better, but
Get a new director. Get a really good director.
The sets definitely hurt it, and I feel like you could do something. You could do something to make it more interesting in some of these parts, but let's get into the reviews.
Let's go. Andrew, who's up first? Who's on first?
All right, we have Stacey Williams of The Mirror, and it looks like they said of the 2020 West End production. There are times, however, when less would be more. The parting of the Red Sea brings its distractions in fringe-clad dancers raising to the sky, taking away from the very effective scene shortly after where key characters appear through the waves as ghost-like apparitions when the brothers have their final meeting. While the production as a whole brings the story to life, it can feel a little flat emotionally in places as we spend the majority of the time in one gear, angst, and on several occasions, the nuances of Schwartz's lyrics are lost as the words are consumed by the music.
I agree.
Yeah, no.
On almost every account.
Oh, man,
They are a lot more whiny in this one. Like, I mean, I guess it's about wanting his people free. I guess that makes sense, but they just seem less...
I would definitely describe it as more mopey. Yeah, for real.
You don't have to lean in so hard. Like, obviously the subject matter is dark, but you don't have to, like, have every character be constantly complaining about everything.
Actually, you know what? That is something that I would change. That is something I would, something that isn't in the film that I think that would make a really, really fantastic addition to the stage is a comic relief character. There's no humor in this show.
Where are the two goofy villains? Why did they cut the song?
like when
Just bring Steve Martin back.
like there's
honestly though, it might
for
help.
real, like no, absolutely. Like there's one part where like Moses falls in the well and the two girls are like, oh, that's why Papa says she's never getting married. And the crowd just like erupts. And I was like, oh shit, that's right. This is a live recording. Because the audience was just dead silent up until that point. Like, I think they
didn't
like,
even applaud at a certain point after like numbers anymore.
no, absolutely. Like there's like, I think I counted 3.5 laughs. You know, like there's one where like some people like chuckled to themselves. And I'm like that to me would be a great place to add to the show. Like make it funny, make a character that people like to see like come on stage. Yeah.
They cut the villain song, which is explicitly just like kind of a comic relief song, really.
Yeah.
It's like these guys doing magic tricks, you know? I don't know. Like, what are you doing?
You could have like a flash, some smoke, people coming out, do stage magic, have them be funny. It would work. I don't know. Is that too Broadway? Is that?
You gotta wake
what's
the
wrong with
audience up every
Broadway?
once in a
No,
while.
for real, absolutely.
I mean, Ethan, have you looked into Aida at all?
No. I didn't mean like, is that too Broadway? Is like, is it too
No,
Broadway?
that just triggered something for me, like as like an idea. Like, there's a song in there where it's literally just about like what the lady queen is gonna wear, and it literally brings down the house because everyone just needs a laugh and some joy at that moment, and just this dumb like song about this woman trying on different outfits like brings down the house every time. So it's to like, we need that even in like really dark grim shows where people get suffocated in a pyramid at the end.
Sure. No, like
Wake us up.
an up number. Yeah, for real.
All right, I'll do the next one.
All right.
And then I'll be in an Andrew sandwich here. Tim Bano of the Stage UK said of the production, the musical is bigger and longer, with 10 more songs by Schwartz and an expanded book by Philip Lezbenik, who also wrote the film screenplay, which gives us more time on the relationship between Moses and adopted brother Ramesses. But given it's a show about miracles, it manages to strip away most of the magic. Take the parting of the Red Sea. If you're going to make a musical about Moses, thou shalt give us a parting of the Red Sea, and thou shalt make it awesome. We're expecting a Miss Saigon helicopter or a chandelier, something really sock-knocking. Instead, string curtains slide in and out, projection show waves, and the slab of stone
Sock knocking. I'm going to use that from now on.
a few soldiers into the orchestra pit. The show is too inconsistent in quality and vision to do itself justice. While it certainly fills the huge Dominion space, it does so through brute force rather than earning its grandeur.
Man, they're really caught up on this parting of the Red Sea thing.
That is what you were expecting in a Moses musical, though. That was the bill they signed.
Well, one of the things that I always remember from the Prince of Egypt is there's like a few scenes that I specifically remember. One is like when Moses is looking at the side of a wall and he's learning about the history and he drops the torch behind him and you get all those like really sharp contrasting shadows on the wall. And that was really visually impressive. The other one is when they're walking through the Red Sea and there's a giant fuck-off whale in the background. And you're like, whoa. Like, you need to have that, like, real wow factor. And they just, yeah, they don't. And it's the closing.
Well, I mean, you weren't wowed by the curtains? I mean...
I've seen curtains before.
He opened the window. I mean... I don't know. They really did mess it up.
Yeah.
They messed it up.
It just was not enough. The chandelier, that's a good way to put it. It's your chandelier moment, and they just didn't have it.
I mean, it's kind of unfair that you make them wait through, like, the entire 2/3 of the... Like, I'd say even more than that, like, 3/4 of it to get there. I don't know.
All right, we have one more review from Marilyn Kingwell of the Times UK. But for a neutral, Stephen Schwartz's musical is a frustrating experience. A clutch of songs have been added to the film's modest quota, but none lingers in the memory. Directed by Schwartz's son, Scott, this loose reworking of the story of Moses never quite solves the problem of how to compete. A lot of negative reviews on this one.
Can you blame them, though? Like, I feel like there's not a single thing they say that I disagree with.
No, and I mean, I agree with I can't remember. I remember, like, the idea of some of the songs that are new, but the only songs that are still with me are the ones that were from the movie.
Yeah, it's definitely like an exposure thing, just like because those numbers are so popular. But No, yeah, I completely agree. Where like you can remember the general gist of, you know, like For the Rest of My Life. That makes like that one sticks with you. I can't remember the melody to save my life, but like you know what he's saying, and that is a beat that isn't necessarily emphasized in the film, which I think is really cool. But they could have done more to tie it to the rest of the through line of the film or in the show. Sorry, like Never in a Million Years. Very cool, very nice, but like more, you know, harder, better, faster, stronger, kind of.
Well, I mean, for the rest of my life, that song is like he's upset that he just had to kill all the firstborns of Egypt. But they don't really, until they have that number, they don't really talk about how he feels about all of these plagues or anything.
Well, you know, they had a song like that called The Plagues in the movie, and then they just changed it into a reprise of No Power on Earth.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit, but I feel like we're already going into the songs and we haven't gone to a mid-show. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the show, but we've got a shill at you. Today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, what's Patreon? There's like a fucking
Patreon.
train just blaring here. I'm sorry.
Is that me?
No, I think it's me.
Oh, you just have a train in Detroit?
Yeah, we have a lot of them.
Okay.
We are the Motor City.
Good.
Keep this in, Brie.
Yeah, Patreon is where you could go if you'd like to donate to us and get some extra content as well. We just recently did a commentary on Dr. Horrible, which was it was something. You could check that out. We also have an ongoing series on Gallivant that we'll definitely put out new episodes soon for.
You better.
We will. Yeah.
I'll read
Are
the
you
names.
reading? Yeah. All right. Our current patrons, brought to you by Jess.
Our current patrons are Melissa Goldman, Terry Needleman, John Donna, Max Lunig, Layden Ackles, Danielle Renix, Jess the Stampede, Ewan Cassidy, Tess Gear, Fire September, Monica Thoreau, Mina Maniri, Brent Black, Haley Murray, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Carrie Ahern, Christine Malmadel, Cole Birchfield, Mary Lou Choquette, John Vanaus, Heck You, I Go By Elijah Now, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Gracie, Andrew Van Barson, Tablam, Kyle Summers, Janae C, Christina Francis, Scoot, and the Technicolor, Dreamcoat, Liz Lim, Corey Wilmarth, Allison Stuller, Nothing Is Certain Except Beth and Taxes, John Vanaus, Thespian, Ren, Colin Await in the Wings, Lady Malvolia, Spectacle Machine, Jacob Stroop, Robert Benjamin, Rachel T, Jessica T, Genevieve Hartness, Cass with stars, Mitchell Young, Chai Teacup, Hayden Wilder, Katie McDonough, Genki Geist, Dekas, I think. They told me the correct way to say it, and I'm still saying it wrong. Timothy Keys, Jeffrey Machado, Jacqueline Spring, Toon Von Essen, and Jesse Taylor. They give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you'd like to join them in supporting us and get tons of fun perks such as Patreon-only commentaries, our episodes a day early, you could see our faces and see the shitty glasses I got on right now. You can tell my face. I put powder on. Ethan and Andrew watching me put powder on for you guys, so you're missing out if you're not on Patreon. Also, you're gonna get the entire like monologue we did in between, like when we were trying to figure out our mid-show stuff there. You'll get to see that in full.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. All right, are you guys ready to get back to the show?
For sure.
Yeah.
Brother, you're safe now, and safe may you stay. For I have a prayer just for you. Grow, baby brother, come back someday. Come and
So the show opens with Deliver Us, much like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a real hard song to mess up, and I don't think they did.
No,
it's good. I mean, they
super strong start. Right out of the gates, you're like, all right, cool, let's do this.
It's like, yeah, I mean, that's a good song. Lasts like 7 minutes long. I mean, yeah.
No, really solid start.
I loved when I watched this because I was like aware, like, this hasn't been that great received. I wonder how it's going to go. And then I watched it. And I'm like, I texted Andrew, man, this is a slog. This is real rough. And then he texted me, like, right at the end of Deliver Us. He's like, what are you talking about? This is great.
Yeah, basically.
And then it's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Like, immediately. Like, okay, we talked about that. Faster.
Thundering into the market on a magnificent steed. Since there is nowhere to park it, might as well pick up some speed. Whoops! Scattering melons and olives and baskets and making a small disaster. No time to turn and look back at the damage we've done. We've got to go faster.
You guys, why?
Yeah,
What?
that's a good question.
Wow. They picked the weakest song in the show to follow it up. They're like, yeah, let's just throw in this one.
It's such a sharp contrast. It's just such a sharp contrast. You can't, you like, I mean, like, that's kind of like the moment where you stop holding your breath. You're like, oh, okay, this, like, 90-5 sort of thing.
When did you give up all hope? Was it when they were riding a chariot made of people, or was it just when the
When I saw the chariot made out of people, I was like, okay, so that's what we're dealing with now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like curious why they would do this here. Like, basic musical structure dictates that you have your big opening number, then you do like your main character introduction / I want song usually right after that. We have like 4 songs before we even get to like what could be an I Want song. We've got like Faster and 1 Weak Link. Neither of them are really like songs about our main character or sung by our main characters, really. 1 Weak Link is sung by the Pharaoh SETI.
Then you get Footprints on the Sand,
Yeah. Well, I can kind of see it if you're viewing it as a relationship. If you're like, okay, we have to introduce Moses and Ramses' relationship, and Faster does that, quote unquote. Although it kind of just doesn't, though.
I mean, but no, I get what you're saying. Like, if you want the whole show to really be about Moses and Ramses, and that's why the ending is the way that it is, then yeah, it does make sense to like have this be the first thing that you emphasize.
But they could have done a better song than this.
Much better.
I understand that in the movie they do the chariot race, but that's because it's an animated movie and you can do like a really cool spectacle like thing where, they're racing chariots around and destroying stuff. But in this, it doesn't even look good. Like,
it's too loyal to the film. Really, it could have been a different trial. It could have been them doing something else, some kind of like archery challenge.
Imagine if we just saw them growing up through the years,
basically,
as like brothers.
Yeah, for sure.
That would have been cool.
I mean,
Ethan, have you looked into the Hunchback of Notre Dame musical at all?
I have seen parts of it. I have not sat down and seen the whole thing all the way through.
Have you seen the updated Bells of Notre Dame?
No. Parts of it. I've seen one and it was really rough. So I haven't seen the official version.
Yeah. So basically, instead of they like completely strip it of the original thing and make it all about Frollo and his relationship with his brother and how he ends up with Quasimodo. Like, his brother goes off with a woman, and then he ends up having to take care of his brother's baby, who is Quasimodo, and it is very character based. And I was actually really impressed at how willing they were to kind of deconstruct that song into something more palatable to the story they're trying to tell. Which I think this really could have used.
Absolutely.
Even Faster as a song, like lyrically and tonally, could work in a very similar way, but you could just extend Deliver Us quite a bit and like use it to kind of set up Moses as a human being and like the difference between the way the Hebrews are being treated and the way the Egyptian like leaders are being treated, and like how he grew and how his sister and his brother grew as slaves. Like, that could have been an interesting thing.
Well, especially kind of, Andrew, going off of your point where Deliver Us, it does function as an I Want song for the Hebrews who are suffering. You could just have it be like an expansive, everybody gets to sort of define themselves. Because the way that I was looking at this was like, Deliver Us just established it. I liked that we had Footprints on the Sand, which sort of teed up Moses as like this dude who wants to be remembered and not forgotten. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like we're doing something with that. We're actually like expanding and it, to however effective you think that it actually is. It's like we're pushing sort of the boundaries. But if you do look at Deliver as sort of the I Want song, and it's as powerful as it is, it really makes something like Faster setting up Moses and Ramses just like secondary in every sense,
Maybe what they could have done is instead of like this duo number, just do something for Ramses, which they kind of do in 1 Week Link. Mm-hmm. This song just feels pointless, and I don't even like it.
It feels like a pointless scene in the movie too. Like we have to set up that they're a little bit more rambunctious.
But the movie, it's animated and it looks cool. It's like a visual spectacle thing. Whereas in this, there's just no purpose. It's just here because, it's in the movie.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah.
So here it is.
I guess that's one big criticism you can have of the show is that it's sort of faithful to the film to a fault.
Until it isn't, and then it's to a different fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, why choose to keep the chariot race scene, but then cut the villain song that was like actually had some sort of point and had comedic relief value? Like, I don't know.
It didn't it wasn't even like the funniest song in the world, but it was threatening. Like it worked in like 9 different ways. That was a very good song because of that.
Yeah.
It's something that, and it's also just, it's a recognizable song. So like, if you're trying to market this, having that still be in there is like, I don't even know. It doesn't make sense. And I don't know. We've been talking about Faster, but I feel like we're not even talking about it. It's just, this is just a bad song. It just shouldn't be
This song
here.
makes me so mad. Like, that's kind of, like, I think just because it's right next to Deliver Us, like, that it, like, feels so much worse. And there's probably worse songs in here, but my God.
This could have been just a scene where they talk.
Or it could have just been a fun, like, scene where they're goofing about, like, and you don't have a song, and then we just go right into the next song, a 1 Week Leak, which does set up Ramesses, like opinion is worries about himself and like his own like God complex.
It also sort of sets up Footprints in the Stand too, because it's the scene that makes Moses talk about that, like he's not ever gonna be the Pharaoh, like he's not gonna be remembered like his brother. I don't know.
That was something I did like about the stage show, where I was because when you're, I mean, like, the movie's what, 90 minutes long, 100 you're going to have to add to the stage show. You're going to have to develop something that's on the film. You're going to have to deviate in one way or another. And I really liked sort of taking a moment, like pre-Moses having this revelation, like, who is this character? What does he want? What is his deal? Because then that makes such a massive contrast when he's actually coming back in the second act, effectively, be like, let my people go. Like, setting him up as somebody who wants to have a legacy to then pay it off when he's like, okay, this isn't about me anymore, I feel like would have been a stronger setup and payoff, but it didn't exactly line up right.
I'm interested in the idea of turning Footprints on the Sand into a different I Want song for both Ramesses and Moses, where they're both singing about like where their footprints on the sand is going to be, and Ramses sees it as a burden and Moses covets it in a way, like he wants to be remembered. I could see this scene working in my way. Like, you could still have the Faster moment without having the Faster song.
Oh, absolutely.
And then gets told off by Seti, and then they like are both angsty about how they feel, and they both kind of have this same issue of like, how will I be remembered and what will be it, where Ramesses is like, no matter what, I don't want to be remembered badly, and Moses is like, I just want to be remembered. Like, that dynamic could be an interesting thing to set up right there, since they are co-leads in this story.
They just wanted a song where they had fun and to show off that they're bros, but you could have done something else for that. And I feel like it's already
bros.
I feel like it's already made sort of clear by their interactions in most scenes until like they break up eventually, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, this is a romance. What if they like are kind of like on shakier ground at the start, and then they kind of grow together through Act 1, and then they have to break up at the end of Act 1 or something like that?
I like that.
Maybe add a little bit more tension of an arc and like show that there is a little bit more of a rougher road, even at the start.
And keep the audience awake.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, yeah, that's like, yeah.
Well, if you want the audience to be awake, why do we not? That's why you have Dance of the Day, so we can have Lady dance.
Okay, yep,
You think you've captured me, my body and my soul. You think I'm yours and your command and your control. me dance for your pleasure and your glee, and I could stand here stubbornly. But no, I will dance, but my dance will be only for me. I dance to the day I am free. I dance to the day I am free.
Yep,
Yeah.
this song
Just pointless
bothers
songs.
me to my soul. Like, this one probably bothered me more than Faster.
Yeah, I give you that.
It's not immediately after Deliver Us, so the whiplash isn't there. That's
I'll
really
give you that. Yeah, for sure. But
Yeah, but you get what I'm talking about.
no, absolutely, especially because this is Zippora's. I'm saying that right? Like Zipporah.
Zippora.
Yeah.
This
Zippora,
is Zippora's like introductory song. This is how the audience is introduced to her. This is like how we find out about her. And instead of the film where it's much more framed as she's like immediately resourceful and breaks out of the palace by herself, the show like hesitates and sits on this number, which I don't feel is a great representation of the character, even though it's trying to be.
I don't tend to read lyrics that much on this show, but I think I need to right now. This is
Go for it.
the second like verse before the final chorus. And this is, how do you like that? Did it thrill your swollen pride? You think you've chained me here, but you're the one who's tied to your arrogant kingdom, which you cannot understand. Someday we'll crumble back to sand. And then she sings about how I dance for me though.
Yeah, I don't want to say swing and a miss. We're just going to say kind of like a miss on that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give credit. There is a genius annotation here that says, this dance is a song of rebellion. Zipporah is captured by the Egyptians and made to dance. However, she refuses to be controlled by them, choosing to comply with their wishes, yet not sacrificing her dignity and individuality. Instead, she dances in celebration of her and the Hebrews' future freedom. I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, I'm not doing what you want because you want me to. I'm doing it because I want me to.
It's an angry child like, all right, I'm taking out the trash, but not because you asked me to.
I want to do it.
It's because the trash is just smelly and I'm too close to it.
I'm not grounded. I want to go to my room.
It feels that way. And maybe as someone who is not Jewish, dancing might be a part of the culture and might be a thing. Like I don't know.
Dancing is a part of every culture. I mean, let's be real.
But that is fair. We could be missing like a big point here. Still, I don't think
want to make that caveat, but it doesn't feel right.
It really doesn't feel as effective. It's just,
I don't think that's what they were going for. Some cultural thing. It's just
Can we talk about All I Ever Wanted, which was one of the songs from the original film, but adapted here.
Perfumes of incense, graceful rooms of alabaster stone, all I ever wanted. This is my home, with my father, mother, brother, oh so noble, oh so strong. And now I am home, here among my trappings and belongings, I belong. And if anybody doubts it, they couldn't be more wrong. I am still a sovereign prince of Egypt, a son of the proud history that shone, etched here on the wall. Surely this is all I ever wanted, all I ever wanted, all I ever.
I think it works really well. I think the vocalist who plays Moses really sells this song better than the vocalist in the movie. But the way it transitions into the backstory in the movie is really rough. I'm not saying it's amazing here, but it's a lot better. But it is just kind of weird for him to be like, wow, I've never noticed the paintings in this room before.
No, especially with the set, it really sucked me out.
there isn't even any paintings.
No.
No wonder you never noticed them. There's nothing here.
You forgot to line up the projector.
Oh shit! Oh, put the next
It's
slide.
the wrong still.
But then just Daddy Pharaoh comes in drunkenly and is like, "What are you doing, Moses?" "Oh yeah, I killed all them boys. Whatever.
It was for fun, and we had to, I guess. I don't know.
Sometimes you just do things, man."
No, really,
Right. There's not much to say about that song. Then really, there's not much aside from. Let's talk about the plagues, guys. I feel like we need to.
And now you've come home. But to those who loved you, you do us all such wrong. And it breaks my heart to ask you, did you hate us all along?
All right.
That
What do you
song
have to
is so
say?
fucking cool in the movie. My God, that is like the highest point in that movie.
It really is. It ties the thing about it like that number in the film. And I really want to make sure I'm like remembering it correctly. I'd love to be able to just sit here and listen to it again. But it brings a lot of different pieces of material together, so that as the different people are bringing their own perspectives, you're getting callbacks to different points in the show. You're getting like all this information in this massive cascading clash between all these different forces, and you're realizing how much is happening. And because not the same stuff is set up in the same way, and then it's not executed in the same way, it just feels lethargic.
Yes. And I want to give credence to where they're coming from. If you look at the actual lyrical and song content of the plagues in the movie, not much there. "You who I call brother, why have you come to hate me so? Is this what you wanted?" Mm-hmm. Like that like not much content and inner turmoil is revealed through this song. It is just cool visuals, great orchestrations, and Ralph Fiennes trying his best.
But
like
that specific line from the plagues is set to the melody from All I Ever Wanted, and
yes,
so you have that tie, and it hits hard because it also like directly contrasts like where Moses was and where he is now. You know, like it hits hard. It hits really hard.
It really does. But the thing is, just change the lyrics, like add to it as opposed to removing.
Yeah.
I know you've got this really big song you're proud of called No Power on Earth that you really want to use, but
It's not that good of a song. It's not that strong.
I wish there's more to say about it. It's just
yeah. And then you follow it up with what in theory should be the 11 o'clock number, unless you're gonna call When You Believe the 11 o'clock number, which I wouldn't. Which is For the Rest of My Life, which is Moses's like big boo-hoo.
There's a weight on my soul, like a pyramid of stone. There's a weight on my soul, a ransom never to be paid. The crimes I do them in your name. But I feel just as guilty all the same. Like a brutal soldier who does anything he's told. There's a weight on my soul for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so like for the rest of my life, it really. It feels like an 11 o'clock number without the energy. Is that right to say? Because this is to me, especially being sandwiched in between like the different like the plagues, but not what you're used to, and then When You Believe, it really gets overshadowed. You know, I feel like it's really easy to pass over it. At this point, you've been listening to Moses sing.
Oh, I get it. Pass over it.
Shit! I didn't mean to do that.
God damn it, Andrew! Happy Passover, everyone.
But no, yeah, it. Especially coming back to like how much of the show is about Moses, how much of the show is about like the Hebrews, like the big overarching theming. Because if you're trying to have this be Moses' story, the Prince of Egypt, then Footprints on the Sand is his I Want song. For the Rest of My Life is the 11 o'clock number, and that makes a lot of sense. But like again, Andrew, you're totally changing the way I see this show. When you look at Deliver Us as the I Want song, When You Believe then becomes this massive payoff for like who like the real protagonist of the show is. And so in doing that, you really have like Footprints on the Sand and For the Rest of My Life being like a secondary ancillary pair to Deliver Us in When You Believe. And especially when you show like how they're adjacent to those numbers in the show, like they're just overshadowed like in every way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Deliver Us, you just can't really top. Like, well, I mean, you could top it, but none of these songs top it.
No, you know what, Andrew? If you had Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston do a cover of For the Rest of My Life, I think we might have something.
Yeah, but you need them specifically.
I don't think Whitney Houston's going to be able to do it. I think she might be a little busy.
It's a weird plot point to focus on because the story, when you think of the story of Moses, you never think of like, oh, he must have felt really bad about all those plagues that he did.
It's like, oh, it's a guilt trip number. Like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like,
he felt really guilty about those goat he had to kill to like rub the blood on his house.
I hope he felt bad because that's something you should feel bad about, but that's not really the point of the story.
Yeah, because like, it really pulls a lot of the emotion out because you're like, yeah, listen, I know that you feel bad because like some kids died, but slavery for a long time, like, we're gonna have to, you know.
I feel like that's kind of what this show forgets is they're slaves. I feel like that is the thing you got to keep like poking the director and they're slaves, guys. We're not supposed to be on their side.
I think that's something that the film does show very well, like literally show. Like you're constantly seeing that they're slaves, and like with Make It Right, is that the number that I'm thinking of, where it's just like it's just not demonstrating it to the same effect, you know, especially the fall.
Yeah. You also don't have the like gigantic statues of them being built by the slaves in the stage show. You just because it's not visually there. Whereas in the movie, like, you know, you have the shots of like Ramses with this big statue of himself that they're all building. You know, like
scale really is a huge problem for this show. Like when you put it on the stage, like trying to get a sense of like the size of the architecture, the chariot race is way too static. The curtains don't like convey what they really need to convey. Like getting a sense of scale and monument really does not translate. That I think is way more important than it actually is. Because one of the things, again, from that one scene where Moses like discovers the history and he's looking at the wall, is you see a massive history like represented in a giant wall. But when you're constantly looking at that angled wall that's suspended that has different things projected on it, it's tough to have that same effect, you know?
Yeah.
Ethan, this has triggered like another question I'm curious about. I'm going to ask Andrew too.
No.
Is there a movie or animated film, live action, that you think has been adapted very, very well to stage? And why do you think that separates that from this?
Ah, man, you're going to think I'm so basic. Lion King?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's made enough money, it has to be good, right?
Yeah. It's a super basic answer, but the thing about...
I still haven't seen that. When are we doing that, Jess? Are we ever doing that?
We just got a Patreon requested, so we're doing it sooner than later.
I think the thing about Lion King, and I guess that might be like not a great thing to bring up now, but the thing about the Lion King that I feel like they do really, really well, especially when it comes to the stage show, is the hyper stylization of the costumes. It immediately sets up your suspension of disbelief when you see Timon and he's got the Olaf puppet kind of vibe going on. It's not too jarring. The hyenas aren't too jarring. Like the masks going above the actor's head and then like moving in front of them. Like it all makes sense and you get it. It sets up your suspension of disbelief. You can kind of see that. They needed to do something like that in this show, but I guess like for props, like have something in the background that looks like a sphinx that is static, so you're constantly reminded like of the pharaoh's power through that kind of scope. You know what I mean? I feel like that really would have helped.
And then
it's
you
really
crumble
hard.
it halfway through Act 2.
Yeah, exactly. Like that would have been great. Like in the middle of the plagues, you can have this prop that's been there just like fall.
It's really hard to get a sense of the scale of the power that the pharaoh holds when we see like two characters that are slaves. It's like, so what, does this guy like run a plantation with two slaves? Like, is that the extent of his power? Whereas in the movie, they're like building a pyramid for him with
legions and legions
it's like
of people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, not that owning two slaves is good, obviously not, but like, but like, you know,
Glad you said it, Andrew.
The sense of scale is not there.
And I think that's really, really important to the story is that, you know, Moses literally walks into Egypt with a stick and he's like, all right, you gotta put a stop to this. And he's, you know, like he's constantly in these buildings that are huge. Yeah, I think the sense of scale really needed to be more in the foreground of their thinking when putting the show together.
Yeah, I mean, and then come on, like, what do you think of when you think of the movie? That shot with the fireballs coming down on the huge statues. Like, there's just nothing like that in this. They can't do it on stage, or they couldn't think of a good way to.
Maybe this is just an unadaptable piece. Like, I hate to use that term because we have an entire spin-off podcast where we adapt anything into a musical, but maybe this one just isn't made for that.
They did make some change. Like, again, I keep coming back to Playing with the Big Boys now. I can't remember what the song is actually called, but I keep coming.
That's what it's called.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that number and those characters that they cut, I can't figure out why they did it, but to me, I feel like the biggest weaknesses, the largest vulnerabilities in what the show is doing really comes from remaining, how do I put this? Like, remaining faithful to superficial aspects of the film, like the chariot race. Like, the chariot race could be anything. It's meant to demonstrate the relationship between the brothers, and you could easily replace that with something else and have it have the same effect. That would,
but no, they had to do it literally.
No, yeah, but exactly, right? Like, you have something that like demonstrates the same effect, but is better for the show. So in adapting it for the show, you would have to make larger changes and deviate farther from the film. But that's what would make it more effective as a stage show.
If only there was like a book that the film was based off of that they could like look to and try to steal some influences from.
Like,
no, that would be ridiculous though.
Or numerous adaptations of that book that you know.
A lot of it
might have.
If only there was an expert somewhere who was familiar with the source material, right?
Imagine if there was a whole field of study about the one book that this story is from.
God.
Like, could you imagine if there was like entire universities founded on studying this one book?
But like,
happy Passover, everyone. Well, I think we've reached the point where we have to ask the question: how would we Muppetize this musical?
Jesus! Oh my God!
3 hours later, we do it.
I mean, Kermit's Moses.
Yeah, obviously.
Kermit's Moses.
And Zipporah Miss Piggy. She's already basically Miss Piggy in this play, to be honest.
Oh, no, that works really well. Oh.
Well, who's Ramses?
Oh, God. Hold on. Statler.
I definitely want...
Statler and Waldorf are the two high priests.
Yes.
That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, we could do that.
Play with the big boys, though.
Yeah.
Oh. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but I'm seeing like Sam Eagle as like Through Heaven's Eyes guy.
I could see. I think Fozzie has to be the Pharaoh. Seti, the Pharaoh.
Oh, the dad Pharaoh?
What if it's Fozzie's mom and then Fozzie is Ramses?
Yes, I'm into that.
Fozzie's Ramses? I can see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Where do we fit Gonzo?
Kermit and Fozzie are best friends. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be into that. Where do you fit Gonzo in?
He can be Aaron.
Yes. And who's Kermit's sister? Do we invite a new Muppet character?
No, that's just a chicken.
No, that's human. No, that's human. You know what? You've outruled me. But the fact is, that's a character that sings When You Believe, so I'm double into it.
Oh my God. When You Believe is sung by chickens. It'd just be a mass exodus of chickens. There you go.
All the slaves are chickens. No.
There you go.
No, that's not a good look. We can't do that. It's not a good
look at all. No, I think like it would probably be celebrity guest Mariah Carey coming in to play Moses' sister, and like it would be that kind of thing. Oh no, now that I think of it, they'd probably make celebrity play Moses. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, and probably put Kermit in the role of Ramses.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
A lot of times with these Muppet adaptations, that's what they do is the celebrity guest is the lead, and then everything else is a Muppet.
And Val Kilmer would insist on being Moses again. For the third time. Third time's a charm, guys.
He can do it. We'll let him do it.
Everyone says that Moses like the Superman is a Moses story, when really Batman is a Moses story, since Moses played Batman.
Batman played Moses. Oh, Val Kilmer. Yeah.
Like Val Kilmer, yeah.
Yeah, Val Kilmer played Moses on 3 separate occasions, guys.
That's wild to think
Two
about.
of them were
Batman
musicals.
is not the Moses story, though. I mean, it definitely is Superman, but, we'll go with it.
No. Zack Snyder said that Superman is Jesus several times.
Totally. Completely different.
You know what? Godspell said Superman is Jesus as well.
It did. Yeah. Tune in next week, guys. All right, folks. What is our overall thoughts on Prince of Egypt and our cheese rating? Ethan, you're up first. I'm throwing you out.
Wait, are we rating the movie and the stage show and giving a cheese rating for both? Or
No. Just give a rating for the musical.
Let's give a rating for the musical.
All right, just the stage show.
Oh man, I wish I had a more nuanced take. When I look at the stage show, I very much just see it in the shadow of the film. I don't feel like what it does, its original, is as executed as well as it could be potentially. It's very. I mean, I'm gonna be very boring here. I'd give it like a 5.5, maybe a 6 out of 10. Very middle.
That's way too high.
Way too high. It's very.
Oh my god.
Very, very middle of the road. The good parts are good and they're from the film. The bad parts really make the show last way too long.
That is not what you want from an adaptation, though. The good parts to be just the stuff that's directly.
Yeah. I'm trying to look at this. I'm trying to look at this show like if it's on its own. Like,
that's like impossible.
I know. I'm trying to give it as much credit as I can. So yeah, I give it that. You're gonna have to come back to me for a cheese rating. I've been thinking about this all day and I can't think of a cheese to give it.
I'll go next then. Yeah, I really, really didn't like this, and I think it's because I don't love Prince of Egypt, but I appreciate the things that are good about it, and one of them is specifically the songs and how they're utilized throughout some elements, and this kind of ruins a lot of that in ways that deeply made me angry, especially like characters that I thought were really strong and interesting in the movie. They kind of turn into these really one-note boring characters. Then they add new characters like Ramesses' sitcom wife that he's just forced to be with and hates.
It's weird.
We didn't even talk about that, but I keep thinking about how much that bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many take my wife jokes.
Right.
And
that was one of the laughs.
Yeah, a lot of this feels like a sitcom writer wrote it, and to my surprise, and not other surprise, a sitcom writer wrote the script to this as well as a script to the movie, so maybe it all makes sense in the end. But my cheese rating is from a place on Jasper Hill Farm, and it's called Moses Sleeper. It is a brie-style cheese.
Moses Sleeper?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Huh. It's made from pasteurized cow's milk. It's from the Vermont region. It's semi-soft, artesian, soft ripened. It's got a bloomy rind and a white color. It's not vegetarian, though, so I don't know how many animals had to die to make it.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're up.
All right.
Take us home.
I mean, the movie is really good, but you should probably just watch that, because this, honestly, it's just worse. And I think, as Ethan said, it's anything good of it is just from the movie. So you might as well just watch the movie, which is really good and shorter.
Well,
not this.
Yeah, shorter.
Yeah,
definitely shorter.
Which is honestly always a positive quality.
Yeah.
Watch us look like jackasses 5 years down the road where they like really revamp this and like really make it better.
Well, if they really revamp it,
though, that would be great.
We should revisit it. I don't want things to be bad. It's just if they are bad, they're bad. I mean, what do you want?
I will say this, right? Like being as fair as possible. I think that there's a lot in this show that with revision could be really good.
Yeah.
I feel like the core concept is there, but the staging needs to be like just completely reworked.
Imagine if this had like the aesthetics of Wicked, or like the amount of like visual like splendor of Wicked. And I mean, Steven Schwartz did Wicked. He knows some people, I'm
absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Wicked isn't just projector screens, you know, like and no props.
I love the snake that just becomes a wobbly stick that he throws on the ground.
Yeah. And for cheese rating, for Passover, I'm gonna give it cream cheese. You know, for bagels, because that's like a Jewish thing, right? I like cream cheese.
All right, anti-Semitism is over. Ethan, I'm sure
How
you
is
got
that anti-Semitic? The cream cheese is a Jewish creation.
Is it? Is that a thing?
Yes.
God.
So are bagels.
God, I'm a Gentile idiot.
Yeah.
Remind me to have Haley on again to explain stuff to us.
Jesus. Everything's anti-Semitic if you just mention Jewish people. My goodness.
Well, no, you said cream cheese was invented by Jewish people. Out of context, I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, that's true. I don't know what to say.
Ethan, I know you got tons of stuff to promote out there. Promote it to the world.
Hold on. I need to give this a cheese rating.
Oh, you're right. You didn't give us a cheese rating.
I've been Googling cheeses all day trying to figure out what to rate this, and I think
that just sounds vulgar.
It very much is. I think I finally settled on one. Casu Marzu, which is from Italy or France, and it's rotten cheese because this show has the plagues. So it's plague cheese.
Well, that's just any cheese made in 2020 or 2021 so far.
Oh!
There you go.
Oh, that's a good one to end on. Like that's a good cheese. Ethan, good job. 10 out of 10.
Plague cheese. Rotten plaguey cheese.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The kind of cheese that brings locusts.
No, give me a crate. I'll take it. Ethan, promote your stuff. I mean, anyone who's watching this right now probably knows your stuff, but promote it anyways.
I make YouTube videos on YouTube, and I talk about like music. Just if you type in Sideways into YouTube, that's me. I'm just a Sideways autoclef. You can also follow me on Twitter. It's Sideways440. And sometimes I stream on Twitch. It's the same, Sideways440. Yeah, that's all I got though. Thank you guys so much for having me. I love being on the show.
I love having you here. Yeah, we got 2 more to go before you hit the 5 Timers Club, more. And then get a free gift.
The gift.
The gift.
Oh no. The gift.
I mean, that's your first gift. When you hit the 10 Timers Club, you get a different.
Oh no, the different gift.
Oh no one's even gotten that gift yet.
No one's gotten that yet. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Brent, but
it's the different gift.
We'll see.
That's if we don't have a huge falling out with Brent.
I doubt it. No. I really highly doubt that. Knock on some wood.
An Avengers Endgame level threat.
We're on shaky ground as it is with Brent.
No, we're not. Stop saying that shit.
People like
just trying to sabotage it.
Wait. Hey, did you enjoy this episode? Do you want to hang out with us some more? This upcoming Friday, April 2nd, you can hang out with us and Brent and Ethan maybe if the times line up.
If my apartment doesn't flood again, yeah, I'll definitely be there.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm very much hoping that doesn't happen.
You know what? Unless Moses is sending down the plague and destroys only Ethan's apartment.
Oh.
New theory. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. But you can hang out with us, play Jackbox games. We have our Keeper of the Cheese, Juliet Antonio, is creating a Musicals with Cheese our Quiplash game that we're going to play. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh. Sounds like fun.
So, yeah, it's going to be a good night, and you don't want to miss out. $10 and up patrons, you get to hang out with us. Don't fuck it up. What the fuck? I'm tired. All right, anything else we got left to say, folks? Oh, yeah, I've got a whole thing to read. Hold on.
What? There's a script.
I guess you do.
I do. Thank you guys for watching. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher at Musicals with Cheese. We're on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals, Patreon Musicals with Cheese, Instagram Musicals with Cheese, YouTube page Musicals with Cheese. We're on Patreon. We got lots of crap. If you want to see our faces, go there. We have an email, musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Go shoot us an email. Bree Views, that theme that we use, is created by Robin Nash at IOU Music. Check her out. Our title card is created by the amazing Jolene Casco. Follow her on Instagram at Jolene Casco. Our Keeper of the Cheese is Juliet Antonio. This show is produced by the amazing Brianna Jones, who sadly could not be here, but we miss you, Brie. Thank you to the Broadway Podcast Network for having us on the platform and for not taking us out to the firing squads yet.
I mean,
I just realized,
after
Ethan,
that cream cheese comment, we're over.
Yeah, after that. I mean, you say that, but literally, Andrew, last week we talked about semen eyes. Like, that was a kind of cheese, and we just made jokes about getting semen in your eyes. And we haven't gotten kicked off yet.
Look, that's family friendly, all right?
Absolutely. PG-13 at worst.
At worst. All right, now do we have anything else left to say?
Bye!
Bye! Happy Passover!
Oh, happy Passover.
I hope your firstborn survives.
Oh, no! Kill the goat! I gotta put his blood on the door!
You don't have to kill a goat to put the blood on the door. You can just cut him severely.
It's a convenience thing, Andrew.
That's true. That's true. It's easier when they're dead.
They bleed more when they're dead.
Do you bleed?
Man! You will.
Oh my God, no.
Moses, stop! Get away from the
I'm
goat!
just thinking of Batman and a goat with a batarang at its throat.
Prince of Egypt, the Zack Snyder film.
It's all desaturated.
Like, everything is just black. You can't see.
It's still Val Kilmer as Batman, though.
Like, half the movie is just the parts where the children die.
I actually think Zack Snyder would do a good Ten Commandments movie now that I'm thinking about it. It's just an apocalypse movie, if you think about it.
I feel like he would cut all the parts about saving the slaves, and it would just be about Moses, like, having to persevere and beat the Pharaoh
Getting
up.
revenge on his old family.
Yeah, it would be like getting revenge because they kicked him out, and like the slaves are like an afterthought. It's like, yeah, and he happens to save the slaves or whatever.
I guess you guys can come with me.
Like Ramses and Moses have a fist fight in the middle of the plagues.
Somehow
That's
he grabs
the
a
ending, the
toilet
Red
and just
Sea.
beats it with him.
The Red Sea parts, and he's like kicking the shit out of Ramses in.
So, Ethan, have you seen the Snyder Cut? I don't even care. Like, people can leave. The show's over, but
I have seen the Snyder Cut.
like the fucking weirdest thing is when Superman just tackles Steppenwolf and just goes like Ralphie on Scott Farkas on him for like the rest of them.
What is going on there?
Just starts beating him
My
nonstop.
God.
All right, we'll see you next
I
time,
haven't
kids.
seen it yet, but I imagine that scene happens at the 1 hour mark and it ends at the 3 hour mark.
Yeah, you're close. You're close.
No, it happens at the 3:55 mark and ends at the 3:58 mark.
God.
Oh, okay.
So long.
Superman doesn't show up until hour 3, Andrew.
Man,
Spoilers
That's
for the
when-
Snyder Cut, I guess.
Doesn't Batman show up at like the 2 hour mark?
You might as well have. Like in costume,
Yeah,
definitely.
like in costume, he doesn't show up until the 2 hour mark.
how do people sit through movies that are this long? Like, Endgame was like my max. I was like, you know what? That was long. That's too much. That was
will
only
say,
like 3 hours, wasn't it?
I felt the length less in Snyder Cut, as weird as that is, than I did in Endgame.
Oh no! I felt the length in Snyder Cut.
I don't know.
I sat through that whole movie just being like, yeah, you could cut that. No, you could cut that. That could have been shorter. Like, split every single scene.
I guess. How's the music? I didn't even listen to the music.
It's there.
Well, you had it on mute?
It's there. There's stuff happening. There's gonna be conversations about it.
Preview. All right, we'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese.
Bye.
Deliver us, deliver us, deliver us.
Yeah, it's not. You're not doing it. You're not doing it justice. I'm gonna